What are your thoughts on this? Should the minimum wage be raised for 18-year-olds? 0207 862 2222. Get your calls in now. Now, the Deputy Prime Minister, Angela Rayner, is pressing ahead with her plans to raise the minimum wage for 18 to 20-year-olds. The current rate is £10 an hour for that category, 18 to 20-year-olds. But when you become 21, it's £12.21. She plans to close this £2 gap, despite warnings from business leaders that young people will be priced out of the jobs market if employers have to pay them more. For context, since April, businesses have had to make bigger contributions to national insurance for each of their employees, and a third of businesses were reportedly considering cutting more jobs as a result of this. Now, Radzi, I'm going to go to you first. Do you think that a higher minimum wage for this group, 18 to 21, is wise, given the potential impact on businesses?
Yes. This is a Labour Party behaving like a Labour Party at last. Thank you, Angela Rayner. If you're 20 years of age and you're currently on the minimum wage, life is really tough. Now, I'm not talking about somebody who lives perhaps in Chelsea, got rich parents, paid for rent, house paid. No, not that. People working in catering, people working in tough jobs. This will make such a big impact. I totally accept. For small businesses, this will be difficult, but for your Starbucks, your Costas, your chains, this is so needed.
Angela?
I couldn't disagree more. The Labour Party is behaving like the Labour Party because they have a tax and spend agenda. You know, where does the money come from in order to do this? I mean, the fact is that these are young people who are new to the workforce. They are inexperienced. They will get more money as they accrue skills and go up through the food chain, as we all did. And it's all, you know, obviously we want people to be paid loads more money, but the money ain't there. And it's all very well saying, oh, it's a shame about small businesses, but at least the big businesses will pick up the slack. The Labour Party came to power on an agenda of growth. Well, you can't drive growth if you put the entrepreneurs and the small businesses out of business because they can't afford to pay staff. There's already talk about the fact that because of the 25 billion national insurance bill, you know, cutting jobs, freezing pay, we're already seeing the ramifications of that.
Radzi, I mean, there's a point to be made here. It's better to have, some wage than no wage at all.
But young people can't afford to live right now. And even young people that are doing well, they are struggling. And the thing is, I've been sat on this panel before and we've said, why do young people not want to work? We've spoken about aspirations of young people wanting to have more holidays than older generations. For this to change, we need to incentivise work. And we're not talking, like I say, about your middle classes. We're talking about people that life's really flipping difficult. And how on earth can you ever have any hope of being independent when you have a wage which is not livable?
Would you apply this just to big businesses, the ones that you're talking about, you know, the Starbucks and others of its kind, or to small businesses as well? Because that's one of the real issues. I have friends that run big bar groups, OK, and what they are reporting, and a number of businesses, is that as a result of the £25 billion national insurance, it's called a raid last autumn, all that's happening is that these small bar groups are just shutting down, which means there's no work at all for 18 to 21-year-olds.
But then we're looking at it from one side of a spectrum. Those bar groups are shutting down, possibly because they're not getting enough custom. Not getting enough custom because people don't have enough money to spend on going out and having fun. So this is a knock-on effect. And if Starmer wants to pull the lever of growth, well, he needs to actually have a strategy. And I rate Angela Rayner for backing young people. And if I'm sat here watching this and I'm a pensioner and I'm struggling, I would totally empathise with the idea that actually it might seem like young people have got it OK. It's your avocado on toast. It's your lattes in coffee shops. But the reality of every day, being from Wolverhampton and places like that, to have any chance of having your own place, any chance of paying rent, any chance of driving to work in a car that isn't going to break down, you need more money.
If you think about how that accrues, that extra £2 a day, that can be the difference that Radzi's talking about.
But where's it going to come from? I live in Manchester, I live in the north, I understand all of those things that you're saying, but there is a limited pot. And if we want to, you know, we're already sort of predicting tax hikes in October, regardless of what Rachel Reeves has said about her whole fiscal headroom. The fact is that when you are 18 18, and I don't know about you both, but I've certainly done those rubbish jobs when I've left school, when I was waiting to go to college. They're unlikely to be trying to get a mortgage or even renting. They're probably still living at home, if possible, at 18 years old. I appreciate not everybody will. That's the nature of the world of work, is that when you start inexperienced, without the skill set to really give something, that's pyramid economics. The more skilled you become, the more highly prized you are. So you work really hard at an entry-level job at 18 or 19, and by the time you are 20, hopefully you're applying for something which isn't a minimum wage job.
Let me come back to you, Radzi. This isn't called a minimum wage. When you're 21, the language is this: it's the national living wage, and it went up from 11.44 to 12.21, which is what 21-year-olds are entitled to. And the word living there is, I think, what you're getting at, right?
Well, yeah, totally. And what it should be is an ability to actually survive, to be independent. And the notion of where's it coming from, we would happily sit on this panel and say, let's prepare for war. 5% of GDP should be on defence. Well, that's fine.
That's not going to happen, is it?
But the supposition of it happening is a plausible
Where's the money
one.
going to come from?
But we find money for things that we want to find money for.
Very simple question. I appreciate what you're saying.
Well,
Where's the money coming from?
The we there that you're talking about is government. This has got to come from...
The we is us. It's taxpayers.
Well, it's got to come from small businesses. Well, it's got to come from small businesses and from large ones. But ultimately, what Angela's saying is that they'll just shut down. To give you some statistics, according to the S&W, business owners, one good research place, that's an owner's sentiment survey, approximately 20% of businesses have already reduced staff numbers as a direct consequence of increasing national insurance contribution. And in many cases, right, it's wiped out the value in this quarter, it's the first time it's come in, of all of the places where these sorts of wages would apply. We're not talking about your big supermarket chains. We're talking about most of the places that employ 18 to 21-year-olds. So the question remains, given that's the case, how do you generate the businesses to keep going and keep growth continuing?
I would actually like to see support given to smaller businesses and businesses of a certain size to slightly offset this. But whether we had a conversation about wealth tax, no, let's ignore that because that's for the rich. Let's focus on the poor. Minimum living wage. The cost of living is through the roof. You walk into a supermarket, you walk out with very, very little. Yep. People's pay is not nearly enough. To me, this has been 2 years too late, really, but I'm glad Angela's done it.
Well, let's hear what they have to say in other parts of the country beyond Manchester and Wolverhampton and London over here. Sophie, you're in Derbyshire. Do you support this?
It should be increased. When you look at it in terms of what people actually do for a job, you would hire the same person to do the job. So regardless of age, they're still doing the same job. My daughter's 20. She works at a GP surgery. She does more than her fair share. She does more work than some of the older people that work there. Right. She's gradually moving herself up through the company, but yet she's still being paid the minimum wage, even though she's doing more work than her fellow colleagues.
Yeah, you make an important point.
Employing a 21-year-old or a 20-year-old,
right.
You would employ an adult, you'd still have to pay them the same amount of money.
Right.
Yet they're doing the same job, the same work, and they're getting less.
Well, I have to say, I that's a very, very important point. It's also a legal one, so thanks for your call. I'm going to run with that. I have to say, it strikes me as slightly problematic when it comes to the law for you to be able to pay, as Sophie rightly calls out there, a 20-year-old less money than a 20-year-old for doing precisely the same work. If it were differences between men and women over 21, that would be entirely illegal.
Well, then that has to be, you have to change that by statutory instrument or whatever the legal
Well, maybe so, but the point is nevertheless valid. Let's go to the south of the country. Marie, you're in Portsmouth. What do you think? Is it time that 18 to 21-year-olds were paid the living wage?
Well, no, not really, because a lot of them are at college. They're not having real jobs yet. My daughter's at college. She has a part-time burger van job she loves, right. And she gets paid minimum wage.
Right, Maria, let me just ask you a question, seeing we've got you with us, and it's kind of what Radzi's getting at. Your daughter, obviously, doing very well, and that doesn't happen by accident. You're obviously good parents as well. She's working in a burger van, making money to put herself through college alongside great parents, or great mums, certainly. I don't know about Dad. But here's the issue. I mean, what about the fact that if she were somebody that didn't have that sort of support, who was living alone, trying to make their way in the world, which is true of millions of young people, wouldn't that person be benefited by having the same living wage as a 21-year-old, somebody that really needs it, that's not doing that work for just extra money for college?
I've helped with charities as well. So I've helped for people to get the help and support they might need if they're out there and they're struggling.
Right, so your point would be that it's for charities to fill in at that stage. There's a number of people that feel the same, I have to say, as you do, Maria. Wish your daughter the very best of luck. Gary, you're in Wiltshire. We've really gone across the country. That's why I have to say I love this show. You get everybody, every point of view. It's not just the privileged bubble in London where 1221 isn't getting you very far anywhere anytime soon. What do you make of this, Gary?
Well, good morning to the panel.
Hello.
The reality is this is the reason why people who have never run a business should be not put in ministerial posts.
Right.
It would be far better to improve the tax threshold to younger people, and they'll be better off. But it wouldn't rely on the employer having to pay more money and becoming sort of a disincentive to
Gary,
employ
I'm not interrupting you. I want you to stay with us because it's a very, very important voice. As I say, I know a number of large, medium, and small business owners who are increasingly frustrated with the lack of commercial experience of this government, who pass laws that don't just stop growth, they thwart it, and it prevents the type of young people that Radzi is concerned about helping getting jobs in the first place. Just expand on that a little bit, Gary. Why would changing the tax system help very quickly?
Well, it would help in terms that they would have more money in their pocket, therefore you wouldn't increase the spending of businesses by £2. But in fairness, they'd be taxed on that if they go across the threshold. So the £2 increase would actually be 20% less of that. And it's the same with pensioners and other groups of people. The stagnation of the tax threshold has impacted on growth. Because obviously if you have more money in your pocket as a pensioner or a young person, you tend to go out and spend it.
So that's your point. Thanks, Gary. It's not about raising the minimum wage. What you want to do is encourage business at the same time, keep enough money in the pockets of young people. And the way to do that is to raise the tax threshold. It's not to force businesses to put the money in their pockets, because that means they can't grow.
Just to also say, I think there needs to be a dissemination between a career and a job.
Right.
I.e., if you're starting at something where there's projected growth, and Angela, I can get on board with what you're saying. In 5 years' time, I will earn more than I do now, so you're going to earn your proverbial stripes. But if you're working, like I say, in very basic industries, it, for me, is a job where what you're getting paid now is pretty much a flat fee. Right. And so that is why there's
Well,
no
I disagree with that, because, you see, my daughter, who's a student, did one of these living or minimum wage jobs during the summer. Wanted to learn the value of money and to earn her own money. I was told if you want money, you have to earn it yourself. That's what my mum, who was a widow, told me. And she came out and said, it was hard work. She learnt a lot about the graft. Hang on. But she also said, it incentivises me more to try and get a better job when I, and get out there.
Very quick last word.
Very quick point was, what proportion of your income was a potential property that you would have bought back then? I don't think we're comparing like for like.
No, I'm talking about my daughter now.
Well, you may not be, but we're going to thank all of the callers for calling us. A number of calls on this, and many people saying, frankly, that it's not about raising the minimum wage, it's about getting as many jobs available in the first place. But we hear all of you, and later it's the papers and everything else.